On 5 News, Trump accused again. Another woman comes forward alleging the Republican presidential hopeful sexually assaulted her.
Perhaps you do not remember me, but I can assure you that I remember you and what you did to me as though it was yesterday.
It comes just hours after the final fiery debate. Also, MPs say former BHS boss Sir Philip Greene should lose his knighthood. A former worker tells 5 News he must be punished.
If I took money out the till at work, I'd be arrested for it. And he's gone off with hundreds of millions of pounds, and nothing's happened.
After claims adults are pretending to be child refugees, we hear from a 16-year-old Afghan boy starting a new life here. And clinging on to hope, a mother's desperate plea for help to save her little girl. Hello, welcome to 5 News. I'm Matt Barbett, and we start with some breaking news. In the last hour, a woman has come forward in the United States to make more serious accusations against the presidential candidate Donald Trump. Karina Virginia was in tears as she alleged that he groped her 18 years ago. And she said while he may claim not to recall it, she remembers it like it was yesterday. Here's what she had to say just a few moments ago.
He then walked up to me and reached his right arm and grabbed my right arm. Then his hand touched the right inside of my breast. I was in shock. I flinched. Don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? That's what he said to me. Perhaps you do not remember me, but I can assure you that I remember you and what you did to me as though it was yesterday.
Well, these new allegations come just hours after the final debate between Donald Trump and his Democrat rival Hillary Clinton, and he shocked observers by refusing to confirm whether he would accept the result if he lost. His response, I'll tell you at the time. It was an unprecedented statement from a presidential nominee, and Mrs. Clinton called it horrifying. Simon Viger reports now on yet another bitter TV battle.
There was no handshake, but what was the point? This is the endgame in the most bitter of elections. An election that Donald Trump claims is rigged against him. It led to this unprecedented exchange.
Do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time. What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt.
Are you saying you're not prepared now to commit to that principle?
What I'm saying is that I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
Well,
okay?
Chris, let me respond to that because that's horrifying.
And there was this jibe over Obamacare.
My Social Security payroll contribution will go up, as will Donald's, assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund.
Donald Trump again pledged to build a wall on the border with Mexico.
We're going to get them out. We're going to secure the border. And once the border is secured, at a later date, we'll make a determination as to the rest. But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
When it comes to the wall that Donald talks about building, he went to Mexico. He had a meeting with the Mexican president, didn't even raise it. He choked, and then got into a Twitter war because the Mexican president said, we're not paying for that wall.
There was more policy in this debate, including gun control, abortion, and how to deal with Russia.
Putin, from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit that the Russians have engaged in cyber attacks against the United States of America.
Neither candidate is popular. Both had to look presidential, and both played the experience card.
And on the day when I was in the Situation Room monitoring the raid that brought Osama bin Laden to justice, he was hosting the Celebrity Apprentice.
Donald Trump has lost support since allegations of sexual assault, and Mrs. Clinton knows it.
Donald thinks belittling women makes him bigger. He goes after their dignity, their self-worth, And I don't think there is a woman anywhere who doesn't know what that feels like.
Mr. Trump.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody. Nobody has more respect.
Please, everybody.
And frankly, those stories have been largely debunked.
Those allegations were bad, but for many the claims of a rigged election are a new and dangerous low. Hillary Clinton was again judged the winner of this debate, but the poll that counts is 20 days away. Simon Viger, 5 News.
And we will have much more on this and those new allegations against Donald Trump on 5 News tonight at 6:30. Back here, though, the former boss of BHS, Sir Philip Greene, faces becoming plain old Philip Greene after MPs backed a call for him to lose his knighthood. During a debate in the House of Commons, one MP after another lined up to condemn his role in the lead-up to BHS's collapse, with one calling him a billionaire spiv, another comparing him to a rat on a sinking ship, as Layla Hayes reports.
He's the former boss of one of Britain's best-known stores, the king of retail, who's a friend of the stars. But his sale of BHS for £1 and its subsequent collapse and pensions crisis means Sir Philip Greene could now be stripped of his knighthood. Today in the Commons, MPs across the parties made their feelings clear.
A billionaire spiv who should never have received a knighthood, a billionaire spiv which has shamed British capitalism.
He says he's sorry, but it comes across as crocodile tears because he won't put his money where his mouth is, and he ought to make recompense.
In effect, he used the company to line his own pockets and then jumped ship like the proverbial rat from a sinking ship.
The last of BHS's stores closed their doors in August, leaving a black hole in the pension fund of almost £600 million. When the Topshop tycoon faced MPs in June, he refused to accept any blame.
I could be a murderer, the way they're writing about me. I can't deal with this. That's a ridiculous statement. Did you, sir, do you mind not looking at me like that all the time?
Hannah Cullen was one of 11,000 workers who lost their jobs. She was given just a week's notice and has little sympathy for Sir Philip Greene.
I think his knight should be taken off him. It's not right what he's doing. I mean, I've always said if I took money out the till at work, I'd be arrested for it. And he's gone off with hundreds of millions of pounds, and nothing's happened.
He's doing well again?
Yeah, he's doing very, very well.
If Sir Philip Greene's knighthood is removed, it will be a dramatic fall from grace for the billionaire businessman.
It has been a very public humiliation. However, it is possible to come back from that if you come out fighting and with the right story. And that right story means, how did this happen? How will it not happen again? And what are you personally doing to repair it?
He's promised to sort out the pensions black hole, but there's no deal yet. The stores are closed, the jobs are gone. Now MPs say Sir Philip Greene's title should be next.
Yeah, Layla, they're saying that, but does it mean he will lose his knighthood?
Well, even though MPs have backed the call for him to be stripped of his knighthood, that motion isn't binding. Instead, a final decision will be taken by something called the Honours Forfeiture Committee. Although this support by MPs is likely to put pressure on the committee to do something. Now, there's no suggestion that Sir Philip Greene has ever done anything illegal in his dealings with BHS, but today MPs said it's not just about being legal, but also about doing the right thing. Sir Philip Greene is likely to meet with the pensions regulator later this week, and many believe that whether he gets to keep his knighthood will very much depend on whether he sorts out that pensions black hole.
Layla, thanks very much indeed. The Ministry of Defence has released footage of an RAF strike on a truck belonging to so-called Islamic State in Iraq. It was filmed in Mosul on Monday. The department says the lorry was laden with explosives and was one of a number of vehicles the Royal Air Force destroyed that day. And it's been confirmed that community pharmacies in England are having their funding cut by more than 7%. Ministers have made the decision, saying the current funding system is outdated and inefficient. But it's led to warnings that as many as a quarter of the country's 11,000 pharmacies could end up closing. Theresa May has been meeting her fellow EU leaders at a summit in Brussels for the first time as Prime Minister. And she's told them face-to-face that Britain is leaving the European Union. At the summit, the Prime Minister was not allowed to negotiate any terms of Brexit, but she did say Britain would continue to work closely with the EU no matter what. From Brussels, our political editor Andy Bell has more.
If Europe has a capital, it is Brussels, a popular destination for many right now, including the heads of the EU governments. But if you're the Prime Minister of a country which has just voted to leave, coming here must feel a bit like going into the lion's den. So perhaps it was no surprise Theresa May today was keen to sound friendly.
Good afternoon. This is my first European Council, and I'm here with a very clear message. The UK is leaving the EU, but we will continue to play a full role until we leave, and we'll be a strong and dependable partner after we've left. It's in the interests of both the UK and the EU that we continue to work closely together, including at this summit.
This summit is much more about trade, migration, Russia. But the Prime Minister will get a slot at dinner tonight to give what's described as a Brexit update. There'll be no negotiations now, but attitudes can be gauged.
You can be sure she will be absolutely safe with us. And I hope that she will also realize that the EU is still the best company in the world.
Madame Theresa May veut un Brexit dur, la négociation sera dure. Merci.
If she wants a hard Brexit, that means a hard negotiation, says the French President François Hollande.
Merci. The President of the European Council likes to quote one of Boris Johnson's phrases about negotiations, about having your cake and eating it. Here's an experiment, said Donald Tusk. Try buying a cake, eating it, and seeing what's left on the plate. The truth is, there'll be no cake left for anyone.
European governments, though, must answer to their citizens. Do they think Britain should get a good deal?
No, because European Union, it's about community, it's a union. And then when somebody leaves, it can't be. You have to decide.
Yeah, it's not going to work like that. If you leave, you leave.
You don't think Britain will expect to get a good deal?
No, I don't think so. A lot of people are very angry on Great Britain.
Yeah, they should try to keep working with each other, but there will be a lot of conflicts, I think.
Right now, she needs all the friends she can get. The Irish Prime Minister, for instance. When negotiations start in earnest, she must make sure it's not her against the rest.
You enjoyed that cake, Andy, didn't you? Look, if this isn't all about negotiating the terms of Brexit, then what is it about? You're right, we can't start the negotiations here because technically Article 50 hasn't been triggered. I think also the problem is that Britain as yet does not have a coherent position. And talking to people here, there's no doubt that that central problem of how to square the circle between Britain controlling its borders and therefore not allowing free movement and yet having as much access as possible to the European market, that remains a sticking point. And Britain really has to know exactly how it's going to negotiate on that before they sit down formally across the table from 27 other governments and the European Commission. Andy, thanks a lot. Still to come on the programme. We speak to one of the child refugees caught up in the row over migrants coming from Calais and how you might have it in you to save this little girl. Find out why after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. Now, over the past week, we've seen all the headlines highlighting the row about young migrants coming here from Calais. They're being resettled in the UK under a government scheme, but their ages and their backgrounds have been questioned by some. Well, today we've been speaking to one of them. 16-year-old Haris Ghazi fled Afghanistan when the Taliban burned down his home. He spent months making the desperate trek through Europe before he was brought to Britain on Monday to be reunited with his uncle. Charlotte Grant has been to meet both of them.
And this is your bedroom through here.
It's a novelty for Haris Ghazi to have somewhere safe to sleep. But now, with his new bed, he's getting used to some British home comforts. His uncle says, like having tea in the morning.
When we wake up, my wife said, the tea is ready for you. And he was said, this is my first time that someone said tea was ready.
There's been a lot of firsts for Haris recently. This his first time to Britain and seeing his uncle again for the first time in 7 years. He's part of a group of children allowed by the government to be resettled here. His uncle says it was the happiest day of his life.
Haris is very happy because back in Afghanistan also we lost all the family. The only hope he's had to be with their family was me and my wife and my kids here.
It's been a long journey getting here. After fleeing Afghanistan a year ago, Harris finally made it to Calais. He spent 4 months there. His uncle says he doesn't talk much about what he's been through.
As I explained to him that, when you come to Britain, children like you are here, they go into school every morning. There is no bombs, there is no explosion. You don't have to worry about that. All you need to do is just to make your future.
But the family say they've been saddened by calls for children coming here to prove their age.
Afghanistan is a war zone, so you cannot compare children in UK with Afghanistan. That if you have a children in UK 14 years old and you have a child from Afghanistan 14 years old, if you stand both of them and photograph them, then you can realize that how difference is.
Do they look older?
They will look very older.
As for Harris, he's already making plans.
درس وایم دکتر یا انجینر
I say I want to be a doctor or engineer.
For now, it's Harris who's making the tea. Whatever the next few months brings, he'll have the support of his family behind him. Charlotte Grant, 5 News.
European scientists who tried to put a spacecraft on Mars fear it may have crash-landed. The Schiaparelli probe was supposed to touch down on the surface of the red planet yesterday afternoon, but it appears its parachutes and the rockets that were supposed to slow it down didn't quite work properly. The scientists haven't given up hope, though, and say it's unlikely they'll find it working and ready for action. And staff at London Zoo have said the gorilla that got out of its enclosure last week didn't smash any windows or break any locks. In fact, they say that 29-stone Kumbuka simply wandered around the zookeeper's area, and at one point he drank 5 litres of undiluted blackcurrant juice before he was later tranquilised and caught. Next, a plea to help save a little girl's life is having a very big impact. 3-year-old Ava Stark desperately needs a stem cell transplant to treat a rare blood disorder, but none of the people on the world's donor register have been suitable or able to help. So, her family are appealing now for more people to sign up to become donors for the sake of Ava and also others like her. Warren Nettleford has her story.
This is what Ava likes to do best. Play. Ava is just 3 years old, but she can't do what she loves with other children anymore. Her immune system is so weak that her parents can't risk infection, so she plays alone. Ava has a rare blood disorder and needs a stem cell transplant to survive.
You're in a nightmare. That you want to wake up, that you want it to stop, that you want her to be fine.
Ava was due to have life-changing treatments last week, but medical reasons meant her donor pulled out at the last minute. So for now, she survives on blood transfusions to stay alive.
Some days I have off days where I just want to cry. And then other days, Ava is basically what gets us through it, because she's crazy and she's just happy and funny.
Happy and funny, Mommy.
But there is hope of a tissue match being found. The Anthony Nolan Trust are a charity who seek out donors, and 60% of patients normally find a match with the charity.
If somebody does come up as a match, 9 out of 10 people will donate through an outpatient procedure where people donate through their bloodstream. 10% people donate by bone marrow donation. With both methods of donation, there's a little bit of short-term discomfort, a little bit of short-term inconvenience, but everyone who donates will always say that it is completely outweighed by the feeling that you may have saved someone's life.
You got a blue one!
Her family are clinging to the hope that someone out there can donate the stem cells Ava desperately needs.
I am begging people. Honestly, I can't beg anybody enough. Please just register.
Ava's family want the joy she brings to stay with them. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
Well, it's a moving plea, isn't it? If you'd like more information on becoming a donor yourself, head to our Facebook page for the details. Just search there for Channel 5 News. But that's just about it for the time being. I'll be back, though, at 6:30 with 5 News tonight, when we'll have reaction from the US to those latest allegations to be made about Donald Trump. After another woman comes forward to claim she was touched by him inappropriately, will this and his performance at the TV debate last night have any difference on the presidential election result? It is in less than 3 weeks now. I'll also be chatting about Sir Philip Greene with the MP who triggered the debate over whether he should lose his knighthood. And Tom Cruise is back. We'll be catching up with the man himself at the premiere of his new movie. Hopefully he's recovered from those scratches he got on his face. Kirsty's got the weather next. I'll see you again at 6:30. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.